Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Kim Toman. I'm with Fleetistics, and today we're going to be reviewing the ELD Driver Training. We have the privilege to have Ms. Robin Kinsey from Geotab, the manufacturer, with us today, and she will be driving the boat, so to speak. Initially, we will go through the driver training portion of it, and then anybody who is just a driver on the call is feel free to drop off, but anybody who will be administering training to additional drivers that might not be on the call, please feel free to stay on, as we will also be discussing some best practices on how to go about getting and disseminating this information to your drivers. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Robin, and Robin, please feel free to take it away.
All right, thank you so much. I'm glad that we have such a nice audience here this morning. So I just want to make sure that you guys can see my screen. So if someone in your chat menu could just say, yes, we can see your screen. I just want to make sure.
And while they're doing that, if you do have any questions, there is a little raise your hand feature on your side. If you have a question, please feel free to ask. We will answer those throughout and then have some time at the end to share some Q&A with the group.
All right, great. And thank you for those that agreed that they can see the screen. So this is what the driver will be looking at. And remember, this is an application that you would either download from the Apple Store or the Google Store, depending on if you had an Android or an Apple device. It really does not matter if you have a phone or a tablet. Either one of those will work. Every driver will have a unique username and password. It does not have to be an email address, as most drivers may not have an email address from their company. Mine just happens to be. Now, the only caveat for not having an email address for your username would be the driver would not be able to see or receive any emails. So that is totally up to the company's prerogative. So I'm going to log in. Now, as I log in, all my logs are being synchronized. It doesn't matter if I drive a vehicle, a different vehicle every single day. My logs will always follow me. Now, I have, as you can see here, it kind of tells you that PC is personal conveyance is allowed, yard move is allowed, so those two exemptions are turned on. These exemptions are turned on in the administration portal, not by the driver. So you drivers, if you need that yard move exemption and you don't have it, you need to tell your fleet manager so that they can turn it on. And I am not exempt from having ELD. Now, the first question that comes up, it's going to say, hey, Robin, you drove this truck yesterday. Do you want to continue with it? Do you want to select another vehicle? Or you want to choose no vehicle? Now, you may be wondering why in the world would I choose no vehicle. But if you were summoned into the office today for a safety meeting, you need to be on duty, and perhaps you've not been assigned a vehicle yet. So you would come in, choose no vehicle, and go on duty during that training time, and then when you're assigned the vehicle, then at that point you could change to the appropriate vehicle, and I'll show you how to do that in just another second. You can also select another vehicle. Now, I will tell you the list that you're going to see would be the vehicles that is physically closest to you. And depending on how close your trucks are parked, you may only see 10 or 12 trucks out there in your yard when you're standing there. Now, this is my vehicle here. The rest of my database, there are no vehicles near me. If I wanted to, I could just start typing the one that I was assigned to, and they would be popping up. Okay, but I'm going to continue with the vehicle that I have by hitting continue. Now, the next question it's going to ask me is trailers. So it's going to say, Robin, you drove this trailer last. Do you want to continue with it or attach another trailer? Now, to attach another trailer, I will tell you, we do not know where physically these trailers are. So the whole list of trailers will pop up. Now, if there's any admins here on the phone with us today, you can control this list by putting these trailers into groups. So the driver in a specific group will only see the trailers that belong to that specific group. Okay. I'm going to continue with the trailer that I have. Now, the first thing that it's going to ask me to do is to verify my logs. Now, verify means that is your electronic signature. As you know, to be compliant, at the end of each day, you're supposed to sign off on that log, really saying, yep, those logs are correct. This is your electronic signature, and even though you should have done it yesterday, for whatever reason, maybe you didn't, we do prompt you when you log out and when you log in to verify your logs. Okay, as you can see, some of these logs for this day, there's two different shadings here. I verified these logs, but I haven't verified these logs that's in white. So I can click verify, okay, or I could actually hit skip. I had 2 days worth of logs. So I am going to verify, or I could have clicked this button that says verify all days. I'm going to skip it. The next thing is going to ask me if I drove this truck yesterday and I'm driving it today, but last night the mechanic jumped in it and took it to the shop and he did not log in. Those are unassigned logs. And per the ELD mandate, all unassigned logs has to be assigned to a driver or a manual annotation has to be done. This is the responsibility of the company. So drivers, this is very, very important that you look at these logs because maybe you did forget to log out. Maybe some of these logs are yours. So you can determine that, hey, these logs are mine and you could assign them to me, or you could say none of them are and just say skip. So it's very important, drivers, that you really pay attention to this, and if these are your logs, say assign to me, and if they're not, then don't do it. I'm going to say assign to me because I chose those specific 4 logs. The next thing it's going to do is to prompt you to do a pre-trip DVIR. Now I know per the regulations a pre-trip inspection is not required, only a post-trip is. This is up to the company to determine if they want you to do it. So most companies do. Totally up to the company that you work for. But I'm going to go ahead and say inspect, okay? So the first thing I have to do is to review the previous inspection on that vehicle. It doesn't matter if I inspected that vehicle last or someone else. If someone else did it, I'll still be able to see it. If there was a defect chosen, I would be able to see the defect chosen. If the defect had been chosen and repaired, I would also see that. So I have reviewed the previous inspection and I'm going to certify previous inspection. And here is my list of things to inspect. Okay, there is a primary list and there is a secondary list. Each one of these you can look at. Now, if there's nothing wrong here, you don't select it. You only select the things that where you found the defect. Admin folks, or if you're on this phone, this list is customizable in the administration user interface, not here in the driver's application. Okay? Now, drivers, I will tell you that also on the secondary list, there is a possibility that your company has decided that, hey, if the warning light is not working, it is considered a critical defect. You would know it's a critical defect if these items are red. If it's not red, then it is not a critical defect. And a critical defect would mean that your company does not want you driving that vehicle with a critical defect chosen. So once you see, if you click something, and I'm just going to say done here, notice that this button changes to done. If I don't have anything clicked, it just says no defects. And you are more than welcome to add a remark. Like if you chose tires, you might want to add the remark of right front tire to let them know which tire. I'm going to say no defects, and this is being inspected. Yes. It will now prompt me to do an inspection on my trailer. Inspect. Again, I have to review the previous inspection, and I'm certifying that I have reviewed it. You also have a different list for your trailers. Again, administration folks on the phone, this list can also be customized in the administration user interface, not here in the driver application. Again, you will have a primary list and a secondary list, and I'm going to choose that. Okay, again, you can make a remark, and I'm going to say done, and I'm certifying that I've done the inspection. Now, it's telling me I have an upcoming violation, so I'm just going to say okay. I'll get to that in just a second. Okay, I'm going to walk you through here in the dashboard. The gears, drivers, this is where you can change your password. So if your company sets you up, maybe they set you up with just password called the company name, and this is where you'd want to come here and change your password. Come back to the dashboard. This next little picture of where you see the truck and the name of my truck and the name of my trailer, this is where you can actually change your vehicle. So in the beginning where I said that if you chose no vehicle, this is where you would come to change to the vehicle. Or you may have done a load this morning, come back to the shop, and your boss has said, now jump in this next truck. This is where you can change your truck. This is also where you can change your trailers. Okay, let's say you dropped off that trailer. You can attach another one. Okay, or let's say you picked up a trailer at a customer, one of your customers' location, and that trailer is not in this system. Then you would need to hit new, trailer name. Okay, your comments, maybe it's trailer, you know, HT67, and add. Now, when I dropped off that trailer, I also dropped off my shipment. This is very important in order to be compliant, okay? You need to choose new shipment depending on shipper name, okay? I always like to pick on Walmart, commodity, junk, shipment document number. Note, whatever that may be, the shipment document number is going to show on your compliance report that you'll be showing the DOT officer. This is important that you fill this out with each one of your shipments. And I'm going to say add. I'm going to come back here to the dashboard again. So we've talked about the settings. We've talked about changing the truck, the trailer, and the load. We've also done the DVIR. Let's talk about messaging. Now, some of you may not have messaging. This is a feature that can be turned on and off. So if you don't see this, drivers, don't panic. But if you do, this is your company's way of communicating with you. So in the administration portal, they can send you a message to maybe say, go, when you get done dropping off that load, go to XYZ next. Now, if you are driving down the road, this screen is locked. So if you receive a message while you're driving down the road, the message will be read aloud to you. So make sure you have your volume turned up on your phone or your tablet, because it's using that speaker in that mobile device. So drivers, if you do want to reply back to them, you would need to come to a complete stop because your screen is locked while you're moving. So once you come to a complete stop, you then click on messages and you can compose a message back and say, okay, we'll go there next. They can also set it up for you, drivers, where it's just a click button, meaning they're giving you the option to click yes or no. So you will also see that. I'm going to come back here to the dashboard. Okay, a couple of things I want to point out here. So this is my name. I'm Juan Gonzalez. So let's say that you do team driving. So you can add up to 3 drivers in the same vehicle. Now, it is very important that each one of these drivers in the same vehicle has to log on the same mobile device. So if each one of you has your own tablet where you typically log into, but if you're in the same vehicle, you can only use one of those mobile devices to log in. To log in the second or the third driver, you would just click on the name here and add driver. Okay, and I'm going to log in my second driver. Okay, and I'm going to just click logging in. Okay, this is Sally Brown. Sally Brown is actually, her English is her secondary language. So she has her application here in Spanish. Now, some of you may say, whoa, DOT requires English. Yes, they do. There is a toggle switch before you hand the tablet out the window to toggle it back to English to hand it to the DOT officer. Everything they see will be in English. Okay, same scenarios. So now we have Sally and we have Juan. And you can determine who is driving. Okay, so you can switch the driver from Sally. Now Sally's driving. If I want to switch it back to Juan, I can switch it back to Juan. I can also switch back to whose screen I'm seeing. I want to see Juan's screen. And now I'm switching back to Juan. So this little round circle here with the letter I, okay, this is important information also. If you think you're having problems with the application or your mobile device, this is a key indicator to look at. If this white circle has turned into a red triangle, it's given you an indication that there is something wrong. So there should be 4 things. There's not the 4th thing up here because I am cheating and using my browser to emulate this to you instead of using my mobile device. But the 4th one is power. If that tablet is out of power, this will turn red. GPS connected. If you're out of some type of range or you're in a garage or in a tunnel, you may see where the GPS connected goes red there. GeoTab Drive connected. This is this application. If something goes wrong there, that will be red. And vehicle connected. If the device has come unplugged, this is where you'll see it. So if any one of these 4 things turns red, this will turn into a red triangle to let you know that there is a problem. Most of the time you're going to be spent here. Notice that I'm on duty because actually, once I started my pre-trip DVIR, it automatically moved me from off duty to on duty. And here we go. So you're either on duty, you're driving, off duty, or in sleeper berth. Now I'm in violation because I bet you I forgot to log out. So we'll go back and fix that in just a second. Okay? So you'll mainly see, drivers, this bar as you're driving down the road, and this screen will be frozen while the vehicle is moving. So let's imagine now you've completed your pre-trip DVIR, you jumped in your vehicle and you took off. As soon as you hit 5 miles per hour, it's automatically going to move from on to drive. Okay, it's letting me know that, hey, I'm going to be in violation here, but you can continue on. I'm going to say okay. So one of the key questions that gets asked to me is, Robin, can I change that from 5 miles per hour to 10 miles per hour? No, you cannot. Per the ELD mandate, it is regulated that this must trip on to drive once you hit 5 miles per hour. So now let's say you're driving, you get to your stop, and you jump out of your truck. In 5 minutes, you'll have a pop-up screen that says, are you still driving? If you do not answer that within 60 seconds, it's going to go from drive to on duty. Now you may wonder, what about that 5 or 6 minutes when I was in drive but I really wasn't driving? That time gets backdated to the on duty time, so it does not get charged against your drive time. Now, as you continue to drive in this big red bar here, it won't be red, it's actually blue. Once you get down to the 2-hour mark, you will have a screen pop up that says you have 2 hours left to drive before you go into violation. At the 1-hour mark, 1 hour, you have 1 hour left to drive before you go into violation. And at the 30-minute mark, you have 30 minutes left to drive before you go into violation. And then, of course, when you're at 0, this is what you get. You have 0 time left and you're in violation once I click on to drive, because as you know, you usually don't run into violations when you're on duty, but once you're in driving, and this is the screen that you would get. So there are different tabs up here. Here's my status tab, and now we have the graph tab. This graph tab is required, but this is your driver's view, so you can go back to 7 or 8 days based upon your rule set, and if there's anybody from Canada on here, you actually have to go back 14 days. So here is all the graph for your logs. Now, a couple of things I want to point out. Notice that there are different colors here. So green means the driver has verified his logs. These red marks, I drove in violation during this time period. And as any of you know, it's probably because I did not take a 30-minute off-duty break in my first 8 hours. It sent me into a driving violation. Now remember, this is on November the 10th, because I want to point something out to you here in just a second. So I'm going to keep going a couple more here. Yellow means that log has been edited. Gray means the driver has not signed off on these logs. Okay. Now for you guys that are using the yard move exemption, a yard move would be a striped green line into on duty. If a personal conveyance is a striped green line in off duty. And if any of you guys are in the oil and gas industry, there would actually be another bar here for weighted well. This next tab is logs. So this is actually where you can add and edit logs except for driving trips. Okay? So this is also where you can verify logs by just clicking verify. So let's add a log, because when I accepted those unassigned logs from yesterday, I need to add an off-duty trip, because notice I'm on duty and it continued from the previous day. So once I add that off-duty log, it is going to stop me from being in violation. So I'm just going to hit this plus sign here. I can choose which duty status I'm in. And the date was yesterday. And I'm going to say, I was at 4/22. And anytime drivers you make you edit anything, you'll be forced to make an annotation, okay? And I'm just going to say, forgot to log out, and click add. All right. Now in a couple of seconds, all that will catch up with me, and then this violation will go away. Okay, so to edit a log, all I have to do is click on to this on duty, okay, and I can click it and change the date and time, change from which status, and the duration. You cannot edit a driving trip, okay? So if I click onto here, see there's no pencil marks, I cannot edit an automated driving trip. That is per regulations. Now, administration folks, if you are on the line here for your drivers, some of you may say, I don't want my drivers to be able to add and edit their logs. You don't have a choice. Per the ELD mandate, drivers must have the ability to add and edit logs except for automated driving trips. Here's also the malfunction notifications. So there are certain things that could go wrong that's going to create a diagnostics code which could create a malfunction. And a malfunction can send you out of compliance. There's about 6 different malfunction codes, and that's actually one of the papers you need to keep in the cab of your truck. I don't have any malfunctions currently, but a malfunction could be more than 30 minutes of unassigned logs in a 24-hour period. It could be 60 minutes of being no GPS connectivity, those types of things, or not getting my odometer. I'm not connected properly. Those are some examples of malfunction notifications. If you do have a malfunction notification, there will be a red bar, and you can click it and see what specifically it is. This next tab is options. So this is where you can use your exemptions, driver. Okay. And this admin folks, you can determine which of these exemptions can be turned on for each driver. You don't have to do it for the whole company. It can be per driver. So one driver could have yard move and the other driver could have personal use. Anytime you do a exemption, drivers, you must make an annotation. And please put down, if you're choosing the yard move exemption, put more down than just yard move, because remember, DOT is going to be reading these annotations. You might want to say moving truck to shop and apply. Now once you do that exemptions, once I come back over here to my status, Notice it's kind of grayed out and it says you're currently under yard move exemption. And I'm going to come back here to options. Now, when I get done with my yard move, I hit stop. Now, drivers, this is very important. So let's say you did a yard move today, but you forgot to use this exemption. So you call your boss tomorrow and you say, hey boss, I forgot to do my yard move exemption. Can you fix it for me? No. Exemptions must be done at the time it happened per the regulations. So this is not a geotab rule. This is the regulations. It says the driver must start and stop at the time of the event for the exemptions. So rule sets. Now, most of you drivers, you may only have one rule set. You're always in, say, the 60-hour, 7-day. You never, ever change. Administration folks, you can lock this down so that the driver doesn't have the ability to change his rule set. But you also have the ability to turn on so the driver can change his rule set. Because you may have drivers that today he's in the 60-hour, 7-day, but tomorrow he's in a short haul rule set. So this is possible to set up, not by the driver, but administration folks, you have to give the driver the ability. Okay, so become December the 18th, one of the methods of communicating these logs is to transfer the logs via email and by web services. This is not currently work, not because the product doesn't work, but because the FMCSA and the DOT does not have their eRODS application turned on. They will not be turning this application of theirs on until December the 18th. So until that happens, you will not be able to email or use the web services until this, the FMCSA's application becomes online. Until then, and probably in addition to, this is the next most important thing. When you're pulled over by DOT, this is where you need to come. Options, compliance report, generate. This is all the information that is needed to be compliant. As you can see your carrier number, the date, the name of the driver, my driver ID, my license number, the state or province it was issued from. I have a co-driver, my odometer, my engine hours, my VIN, my shipment, my shipping ID, my trailer ID. All this information is needed to be compliant. And I'm continuing to scroll down here because here's the graph that is also required for ELD along with the logs. From the time you log in to log off to log in, when you powered up, when you shut down, when you certified, all of this is required. And here's my yard move, moving truck to shop. And if I have any unassigned logs, here it is. Now I'm going to go back because you have to go back for the, if I'm in the 60-hour, 7-day, you have to be able to go back to 7 days. So I'm actually going to go back to the 10th because if you remember on the 10th, that's the day I actually had a violation. So I'm going to go down here to my graph and notice there's no red marks. We do not point out to violations to DOT. It's their responsibility to find it. Now this one's pretty blatant. You're probably not going to get away with it, but again, we're not going to just hand it to the DOT. This is the reason why, guys, it's very important that you, when you're pulled over by DOT, you just don't take that mobile device and pass it out the window to DOT and say good luck. You need to make sure you come to the area that says options, compliance report, and get to the screen before you hand your mobile device out the window to DOT. Okay. So really that's all there is to it, but there is a couple of more things I want to point out to you about logging out. So this is another critical area, drivers, that most drivers struggle with, because you get done for the day, you jump out of your truck, it will automatically move you to on duty, but you really need to go to off duty. But sometimes drivers will just close the application thinking it's done. But closing the application is not the same thing as logging off duty and out of the system. Okay? Drivers, if you do not log off duty and out of the system, if someone jumps in that truck after you, again, maybe that mechanic taking it to the shop, the system will automatically think those are your logs. And yes, you can move those logs, but it's just a pain in the butt. So you just need to make sure that at the end of your day, you log out of the system. So even if I say keep myself on duty and I come up here and I log out, I'm going to log out, I'm done with my day, it will actually prompt you to do a post-trip DVIR. Okay, but I'm not going to go through that. It's the same thing it was when we did one on the beginning, and I'm going to hit skip. It's prompting me to do one for my trailer. It's also prompting me to verify my logs. Okay, and I'm going to verify my logs so I'm all caught up. It's also going to prompt me to go off duty, and I'm going to set new status. Now, a good habit also to get on is that once you do that, take that application and just, you know, like if it's a mobile device, like if it's an Apple, you can minimize it and you can slide it off the screen to totally get out of that application. Now, notice here, though, Juan Gonzalez logged out, but here's Sally. Sally is still on duty. I do want to show you on the compliance report here. I'm going to go to Options and Compliance Report, and here's my toggle from English to Spanish. So now hand it out the window. I converted it over to English and you can hand it out. And now we'll log Sally out. She also has to verify logs and go to off duty. Okay. Kim, any questions that we need to answer?
Not at this time. If anybody does have any questions, feel free to go ahead and type them in and we can go through them. Nobody has any questions?
It's highly unusual.
You're that good, Robin. Okay. So we do have one coming up here.
All right. Well, Mandy's typing her question. So, Joel and Kim, did I miss anything that maybe we need to point out?
So no, I think you covered it all. The question is, will there be a manual available for driver training? That's the first. That's one question.
Okay, so there are, you know, manuals that needs to be kept in the truck. And Kim and Joel can send those off to you. There are 3 different things. There's one for malfunctions, there's a driver document, and I think, and then there's a one-sheeter that can easily help them remember how to get over to that compliance report.
Yes, well, I'll follow up with everybody on here that I've got all your emails, so I will send everybody an email with those 3 links. Those are documents that are updated regularly, so before December 18th hits, just make sure you've got the most recent document and that it'll put you in compliance.
All right, well, I see a great question here about a fuel carrier. So, Mandy, I'm assuming you're talking about oil and gas. So if you're talking about weight at the well, we do have that exemption. I just didn't have it turned on for this specific training, but you can turn on weight at well for that driver and he can have that exemption. There was another question about the 100 air mile radius, the short haul. So we do have the short haul rule set that you can choose. We don't have a well, we go into terminals to load diesel gas. No, this is not a weight at well situation typically, but please check with your DOT officer and he could give you more specifics to see if there's a way for you to qualify. But as far as I know, and I do not represent the FMCSA, I don't believe so, but please check with your DOT officer. So that crawl time in your terminal yard, the one where normally you consider off-duty, can no longer be considered off-duty. That crawl time is going to create a trip, and it will be on-duty time.
Could that be considered a yard move?
If it's within a yard, yes. And yard move is on duty, not driving. Yes. You can have a yard that is not yours, but you just need to make sure you've got some parameters set up. Like make sure that if that line, like at the dock, I've seen the line at the dock to actually go beyond the dock. I would say if it's on a public road, that is not a yard. Make sure it truly is a yard to be on private roads within that area. All great questions. Anything else?
Do have a question about, that's not in here, but if you have a vehicle whose gross vehicle weight is under, but then you add a trailer that promotes it to go higher than, how is that handled? Would they have to then use the electronic driver logs because the total gross vehicle, the weight and trailer qualify?
Great question. Absolutely. So let's imagine you've got a F-250, Ford truck out there, which is really not considered a C&V. It's lower than the 10,001 pound weight. But once you attach the trailer and the load, you're now over that. Now, if that's a CDL driver that maintains logs, that is now a C&V, and that's a really driving trip. But the other side of that coin is, let's say that CDL driver that's recording his logs now jumps in a truck that's non-CMV that would not count against his driving time. It would only count against his on-duty time, and you would need to use a yard move to annotate that in that truck.
Okay. Perfect. Then we have another one that we have multiple manifest numbers per truck. Do we use only one manifest number? And would it be the last stop manifest number? How is that handled?
That's a great question, which I do not have the answer for. That's been asked many times to DOT. And unfortunately, the FMCSA has given us a couple of different answers. So I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work. Each company has had to reach out individually to DOT and ask that to get that from them. So I definitely check with your DOT officer.
Just confirming that 3 drivers are allowed maximum per ELD unit in a truck. That is the correct number, right?
That is correct. Now, I do know that there are circumstances where a truck could have 4 or 5 people in the truck because a couple of them are just passengers that are drivers, but they're not really going to drive that truck because they're all being carted out to some yard to pick up their truck. That driver the additional drivers could log into their device and just go on duty during that time without choosing a vehicle.
Okay. So our adverse driving conditions, how many times per week, month can that be used? And during the winter months, we seem to have a lot of accidents due to the influx of people driving. They're in Florida. We get a ton of snowbirds, so traffic gets way worse.
All right. Well, you got to remember with ELD, the regulations have not changed. Only the method of communicating them has. So the regulation states the adverse driving condition can only be used once every 7 days. So our system is equipped for just that. So if you did have an adverse driving condition today and you used it to give you that additional 2 hours of driving, and tomorrow you really did have another legit adverse driving conditions, you're really hosed. You can't do it again for another 7 days. And that's per the regulations.
All righty. So if we have all local drivers, which are under the 8-hour days, how does that affect their 30-minute breaks?
Okay, so really, Jeff, it depends on what rule set. So can you be a little bit more clear? Are you talking about the short haul rule set, which does not require a 30-minute off-duty break, or are you talking about using a long haul rule set for whatever reason? And while you're doing that, I'm going to answer Paul's, where if you have a rental, what's the process? Awesome question. So let's say that your truck broke down and now you've had to get a rental truck from Penske or Ryder or whoever, okay? Now, some of these rental companies are going to have devices in their vehicle. Matter of fact, most of those major leasing companies like Ryder Penske actually use Geotab. So it's going to be really easy for you to get that information. But the mandate says that if you're renting a truck for less than 8 days, you do not have to have ELD in that rental vehicle. Now, beyond the 8 days, yes, you do. But I will tell you, if you're on day 4 of that rental, you still need the previous 7 days worth of logs. So you still need your mobile device that has your electronic logs. And if you've been doing paper for those 4 days in your rental, you still have to have the previous 7 days of logs. So keep that in mind. But let's say this is a long-term rental. You could actually take the device out of your broken down truck and plug it into your rental. And this is something that has to happen on the administration side to make all that data historical on your broken down truck, and you could keep moving with your new rental truck. So I hope that answered that question.
Mandy, to answer your question, yes, this is being recorded, so we will be able to share that through our YouTube channel, and you can share the information with your drivers. Jeff, we've got another question. Short haul, all my drivers run a local route each day. They usually work 6:30 to 3 each day.
Okay, so we have the short haul rule set. So we have the short haul rule set, just use it, and the short haul rule set does not require the 30-minute off-duty break.
All right, folks, and do we have any other questions that are out there before we wrap everything up?
Well, we may want to keep any train the trainers still on the line, just as a reminder.
And I think quite a few of them are because they're at local offices for one of our larger companies on ELD. So if there aren't any questions about just this driver portion, then we'll move on to the admin. If there are drivers on the call, you don't need to stay on for this part of it. But we'll go ahead and continue with those that are going to be administering the driver training within their locations and groups. And again, while she's doing that, if there are any questions, go ahead and send them through and we'll go ahead and address them.
All right, Kim, do you want me to continue on from the train the trainer perspective?
Sure.
Okay. So trainers, if you're going to be out
in English.
in English, let me refresh that, get you back in English. There we go.
There you go.
Don't worry, I don't know Spanish either. I struggle a lot. Okay, a couple of things that I definitely want to point out to you, trainers, is that you may bring your drivers into a conference room to do this training because you've got 6, 8, 10 drivers at a time that's coming into your conference room training. And what you don't probably want to do is sit around this 7-inch mobile device trying to show these 10 big drivers how to do this. So I want to share with you how I emulated my screen so that you can do the same thing. Okay, you can open up a web browser, and the web link that you need to be type in is going to be unique to your company. Okay, so if you do get stuck, reach back out to Kim and Joel. I'm sure that they will give you some guidance there. But it is https:// don't worry about that number there, .geotab.com/drive/, okay? Once you do that, you can put that in any web browser that has internet connectivity. The first time you log in, you may have to put your database name here and my.geotab.com. Again, don't worry about the number so much because all that number is the server that your database is sitting on. Each company has a unique database name, so whatever that database name is needs to go here. Now you may go, I don't know what my database name is, so let me pull up an example and show you. So if you look up here in your web browser here, whatever comes after geotab.com/, this is the name of your database, just so you know. Okay. Once you do this one time, you won't have to do that from that point forward, okay? Now, if you are training other drivers and you're technically not a driver, in order to walk through this like you're a driver, you're going to have to set yourself up as a driver, okay? And we'll go through that actually tomorrow, and then you'll be able to log in as soon as I get my right password going, okay? Best practices I will tell you, require 2 driver trainings. One, like we just did, on the average, that takes about 30 to 35 minutes to walk through everything just the way I just did with you guys. And then have your drivers go out and use it for 4 or 5 days. At the end of the 4 to 5 days, have them come back, do another training just like you just did, okay? And at the end of that training, actually give them a quiz. And I'm going to show you what the quiz can look like. By the way, you guys can all have this document here that Kim and Joel can send to you. But within this document, this, by the way, is a living, breathing document. And within here are lots of links, okay, that you may find very beneficial. I actually highly encourage you, train the trainer folks, to read through this document. Okay. But within here, there is a link here for a test for your drivers. It's called Geotab Drivers Quiz. This is a 25-question quiz. This is not a trick question quiz. This is a no-brainer, basic questions. And at the end of my second training, I give these drivers this quiz. If they do well on it, you know they got it and everything is good. If they don't do well on this quiz, then they don't got it. And they need to continue going through training till they do. Because if they do not do this properly, it's going to result in violations that's going to cost your company money along with your CSA scores. So it's important to make sure. Unfortunately, when you ask drivers, do you think you got it? They're all going to say yes, and maybe they do, maybe they don't. The average age of drivers is 54, and believe me, I'm not knocking that number, but most of those guys may not be as computer literate as you and I. So it's very important that you ensure that your drivers understand this system. And by the way, there are the answers to the questions here at the end. The other thing I want to point out is this template here. So if you're using 2 systems right now, maybe you're using paper and you're just testing this to make sure that the drivers are getting it because you're doing training, I highly recommend you put this type of template on your letterhead with your official signature on it to say, hey, my primary sets of logs is blank. And I'm testing this from this date to this date. The reason why I encourage you to do this is because then DOT will not think that your driver's running dual sets of logs. The only other thing I want to point out here, when I shared with you this web browser to emulate, please do not share with your drivers. This is not going to work for them out on the road to log, okay? They need to use the application, not this. This is only for training demonstration purposes. So Kim and Joel, anything I missed that we need to hit upon, or?
No, I just have one question here. How do we contact you to get that info? So I did send a welcome email if you hadn't have that or you don't have it now. When I send you the links for the documents that need to be in the cab of the vehicle, I will include the link to this compliance guide as well, just in case it got lost in the mix of emails. That way you'll have one document or one email from me that has those links. Now the documents that are required in the cab of the vehicle are all in this compliance guide. I'm just going to link you out to those so that you can, get to those quickly. But like she said, definitely feel free to please learn this and know this compliance guide. It's got a lot of great information in it. As well as you can see, she's pointing down some videos. So I will definitely send you a link for anybody who may not have that email I had previously sent.
These videos are great videos that I would encourage you giving your driver access to. So if they have a mobile device, you can actually put these videos on their tablet. Otherwise, they can go to a link and it's going to send them out to YouTube. But if you're paying for that data plan, you may not want them to have access to go to YouTube. And that's fine. You can actually take these videos, download them on the tablet, so that the driver can review at any point in time. There are 4 videos here. The longest one is 13 minutes, and really that's a quick view of everything in GeoTab Drive. The other 3 are very specific, like if they forget how to do a DVIR. Here's one on the settings and assets and one on messaging. And they're all about 3 minutes long. So this is just something added. Again, if you really want to be successful with ELD when you're training these drivers, it really is repetition of training these drivers in order for everything to go smoothly.
All right, folks, we're winding up in time. Are there any other last-minute questions that anyone has? Okay, it looks like we're good for now. If anything does come up, you have definitely feel free to contact your account manager. We have our support team, and you can also reach out to me. Everybody will have access to my email shortly if they don't already. So just keep in mind there are lots of different resources that we have available for you. We don't expect all of this to get soaked into one session. Typically, especially with the holiday next week, there will be another set of training, both the driver like we're doing today and the admin like we're doing tomorrow in 2 weeks' time. So if you have additional people that would like to join at that time, please have them go to our training section and sign up for the upcoming webinars. All right, well, I would like to take a moment and thank you very much, Robin, for your time today and going through all this information with us. And everybody who is on the line, we really appreciate you taking the time out of your day as well to make sure that you as the driver and as the admins are taking the time to learn this information. It will make your life so much easier in the long run. So I hope everybody has a great day, and for those that are admins, we look forward to the call tomorrow.